Shams from The Athletic just dropped a huge update about OG Anunoby and when he can return for the New York Knicks. We're going to break down that latest report, and we're also going to take a look at the Eastern Conference standings, see where the New York Knicks are at the moment, and what they have to do for the rest of the season in order to stay in the playoff race. All of this and so much more today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now and make sure you have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. Shams provides an update on OG's return for the New York Knicks. That's been the main question for the last few weeks. We've heard about OG. We heard he had successful elbow surgery. We knew he was working out, doing practice, doing contact drills, but we haven't heard anything about when he was going to return. And then a couple of days ago, we finally heard that he was ready, but then he was just waiting for doctor clearance. He still hasn't gotten it yet. So we've still been waiting for OG and potentially when he can return for the New York Knicks. And Tom Thibodeau, while he didn't give it away, basically stated that he expects OG to return on this road trip. Let's see exactly what he stated to SNY's Ian Begley. According to Begley, Tom Thibodeau gives an update on OG Anunoby and stated the following. While OG, Randall, and Mitchell Robinson can all travel, Thibodeau did state he's hopeful that OG gets cleared and should be able to play. This is regarding the Knicks and their following road trip. But recently, Shams just gave us the following update about OG and when he is expected to return for the Knicks. According to Sham, OG Anunoby is close. This is right around the time that he's been expected to be back on the floor. So look for OG to be back in the next week or so. That's when he'll likely be back on the court. And I want to mention that after OG Anunoby went through a full practice without any limitations, head coach Tom Thibodeau stated that OG was day-to-day. So you have the head coach stating he's day-to-day. All we're waiting for is the medical staff basically to clear him so he can return to the court. You have Shams stating that OG's going to return basically this week within the road trip, which is essentially what Tom Thibodeau stated. So it looks like everything is pointing to the fact that OG Anunoby is likely going to return once the New York Knicks hit the road. Now, does that mean he won't return this Tuesday once the Knicks see the Sixers again? I'm not saying that. Anything could happen. He could look very good in practice, could feel very good afterwards, and then after that, the medical staff may clear him. Once he's cleared, I expect Tom Thibodeau to play him immediately, right away. He might have some minutes restrictions, but that's not going to stop Thibs from playing him as soon as he gets cleared. I don't mind if OG Anunoby doesn't return until the New York Knicks head on this road trip. OG getting a few more days of rest, given the type of player that he is, how special he is, how impactful he is for this Knicks team. In my opinion, take all the time that you need. Get 100% better. Make sure that elbow's right. Make sure you feel right. Make sure your threes feel right. And then once you're 100% better and back, come back on the floor for the New York Knicks and do everything you were doing before. Hopefully, maybe I'm praying on this a little bit, but maybe you'll come back and be even more impactful than you were before, given the fact you have the chemistry with these guys. Maybe you know how to utilize these three-point shooters and Bojan and Burks a little bit better, especially when you're doubled going inside. So that's something I want to see OG Anunoby do and see if he can work with now that there's new players on the roster. It's going to be very interesting to see how he adapts, how he performs with them, and if he can have the same type of impact or an even better impact given the players that we added. That's what I'm going to be watching with OG as soon as he gets back. I'm also going to be watching the minutes he's playing, how he looks on defense, if he looks winded, if he looks tired, if something is bothering him, if he's hesitating on certain moves, if he doesn't want to take contact. I'm going to be looking at it all. And I can promise you, if I see something off, you know a video is going to come out about it because I love this team. I love the Knicks, and I truly love OG Anunoby and his impact for this team. And I look forward to him coming back for the New York Knicks. We need him. A lot of the games that we're losing, we win if OG Anunoby's on the floor. If OG is on the opposing team's best player, best believe that team's going to have a bad night. The Knicks are going to capitalize on it because they are one of the best rebounding teams in the league. So you add good defense with good rebounding, and you're stopping the team's best player. That's going to lead to an open path of victory for the New York Knicks, no matter who they have on the floor. The better the talent, though, on the floor, the more of a blowout that type of victory is going to be for the Knicks. You know how I know that? I saw it in January with Julius, OG, and Jalen. Now we have that. Plus, we're going to have Bojan, Burks, Dante DiVincenzo at his breakout self, doing everything we want him to do, looking like a rising star. Add to that we have better shooters now, and we have players that know how to utilize those shooters, especially when they're double teamed. That's what you need. As a New York Knicks team, that's what the Knicks needed to add. If you go back to last year's playoffs, that's what the New York Knicks needed. We were void of it. We were missing it. This year, we were still missing it. Added Bojan and Burks, we're not missing it anymore. I know they haven't looked great since the trade. That's because we haven't had the talent on the floor to make them look great. Let's not forget, good players don't always look good when they go to a new place. They need to look good when we're fully healthy. You cannot judge this team, and you cannot judge those players. Well, maybe Burks a little bit more, but you can't judge Bojan Bogdanovic and this entire roster until Julius gets back, until Mitch gets back, until Hartenstein is fully cleared and fully healthy, and we have a fully loaded roster. Once that happens, then you can start to judge this team. But we're missing so many key players. You can't judge this team. OG Anunoby is one of the best players that the Knicks have on this roster. We haven't seen OG, Randall, Mitchell Robinson, Bojan, and Burks on the floor together at all. We haven't even seen a combination of that lineup at all. We haven't seen OG and Mitchell Robinson. Imagine what that looks like. There are so many things that we still haven't seen yet for the New York Knicks. So many combinations that Tom Thibodeau still has to work with. And that's why the only thing hurting the Knicks right now is time. Because we have so many games left before we're going to get fully healthy, where we can have some games to gel, gain chemistry before we head into the postseason. If we don't have at least 10 games underneath our belt, we're not going to be able to do what we need to do. We need at least 10 games to make sure we have that chemistry together, to make sure that when we go into the playoffs, we are as good as possible. If we have less than 10 games, it's going to be a difficult road into the playoffs and trying to be that deep playoff team, because you can't make up for chemistry. You can try to add as much talent as you want to any team, but chemistry always wins. And if you have less of it, you have less of a shot to win games. And that's just how it is. And right now, the Knicks cannot afford to be dropping or losing any games. As you can see here, the Eastern Conference is stacked. I know a lot of people don't want to recognize it. I hear a lot of people talking like the East isn't good. The East isn't stacked. Can we look back at the graphic again? The East is stacked. Celtics, Bucks, Cavs, Knicks, Magic, Sixers, Pacers, Heat. Those are all teams that could be dangerous teams in the playoffs. And look how many games they're apart from one another. Look at the games that they're apart from one another. The Celtics, obviously, by far ahead of the pack. But then you got the Bucks. Then you got the Cavaliers, a half a game behind the Bucks. Then you got the New York Knicks, 4 games behind the Cleveland Cavaliers for a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. The Magic, a half a game behind the Knicks. The Sixers, a half game behind the Magic. The Pacers, a half game behind the 76ers. The Heat, a half game behind the Pacers. When you get to the Bulls and you get to the Hawks, yeah, there's a little bit more of a drop-off in terms of games. You have a little bit more of a cushion and a little bit more room. But from 4 all the way to 8, you could even make the argument from 2 all the way to 8. Anything could happen with that regard. What if a player gets injured? What if somebody can't perform? What if somebody gets ill? There are only a few games left and a few games separating who is the 3rd spot, the 2nd seed, the 4th seed, the 5th seed, who's a playoff team, who's a play-in team. That's why each and every single one of these games matter. That's why getting OG Anunoby back is so crucial for the New York Knicks. Because if he's back, the Knicks are going to win more games. The Knicks win more games, they have better seeding. The Knicks have better seeding, they might put themselves in a position to make an extremely deep playoff run, because it all depends on matchups, who they're facing in the 1st round, the 2nd round, and if they get there, the Eastern Conference Finals. That's what matters the most. But it all depends on who they face. And maybe they want to be a 4 seed. Maybe they want to be a 3 seed. Maybe they want to be a 2 seed. But see, the thing is, all of that is in their grasp. They can actually attain it. If the Cavs lose a couple more games, if the Bucks drop a couple more games, by the way, that can happen. If the Knicks win a couple more games because they're getting healthier, That can happen as well too. Anything could happen. Maybe the Knicks shifted the third spot. Maybe they shifted the second spot. Who knows? But if they lose a couple more games, they could drop into the play-in. And that's the issue. If you look back at the graphic here, the Knicks are 1.5 games ahead of the first play-in team on this list, as you can see, in the Indiana Pacers. I want the Knicks to knock the Cleveland Cavaliers to the 4th spot and for them to take that 3rd spot and hopefully lock it down, because that is the situation for me, that if the Knicks get there, they will be able to make a deep playoff run. Here's why. Let's say if the playoffs happen today, where would the New York Knicks be? They would be in that 4th spot. So they would be taking on the Orlando Magic. In my opinion, Orlando is a question mark. They don't have playoff experience. Maybe they fold under the bright lights. But what if they don't? It's too much of a risk in my opinion, and I don't want to be the test for that team. The 76ers, however, are in that 6th spot. Joel Embiid, when he was on that team, didn't do anything when it came to playing against the New York Knicks. Now, I know, regular season and postseason, there is a difference. However, Joel is still recovering from an injury. A lot of players on the Sixers are recovering from an injury. They still have to get time together to gel and make sure they're good headed into the postseason. And they're going to need games to do that. I don't know when Joel Embiid is going to return. I don't know when Tyrese Maxey's going to return. But I know that's going to throw them off and throw their team off. And if that's the case, I would rather have the Sixers at this point in time than take on that question mark in Orlando. Now, maybe if things shake up a little bit and maybe Orlando drops or they go up a little bit, Sixers drop or they go up a little bit, maybe you can sell me on the New York Knicks going higher or staying where they are or whatever the case may be. Either way, though, I think it helps the New York Knicks on a multitude of levels if they get that 3rd spot in the Eastern Conference. The playoff race for the New York Knicks is going to be extremely tough and extremely tight as we move forward here. The Knicks have to win each and every game moving forward. Now, I know that may sound impossible. They have to drop some games. I understand that, and I'm okay with that. But I want them to win more than they're going to lose, because that's the only way they're going to keep their seeding or potentially, hopefully, move up in the standings, which is exactly what I want them to do. But what about you guys? What do you think about this update that we just got from Shams regarding OG and his current return status for the New York Knicks? And what about the Eastern Conference? How do you feel about the standings, where the Knicks are, and where do you want them to end up? As a 3rd seed, a 2nd seed, a 4th seed? Let me know in the comments below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below, and of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knick fans. Peace.